let's go to Asim Khanna. Yes, please.
Yeah, first of all, I appreciate all the guests today and the angle they presented from their point of view, and I really, really appreciate that. Uh, when we look at the Gospels, all the Gospels don't have the story of Jesus. So Mark doesn't say anything about that account. Uh,
John
John,
doesn't.
so John has one sentence. If you want to hear the story of Christmas without angels, without shepherds, even without Joseph and Mary, you can read that in John. Word became flesh and dwelt among us. So that's the story of Christmas according to the John. So now we are left with two gospel writers. One is Matthew and one is Luke. So now we have to look at Luke and Matthew, uh, what their professions were. So like Dr. Rio, Luke was a physician, not exactly like her, but he was a physician in his own time. And but Matthew, he was a tax collector. I could say he was um,
Government.
like a servant of the Roman government.
Yeah.
And I love Matthew. I love his name, Matthew, gift of God. So the word God is in his name. And his other name was Levi.
Yeah.
And Levi was a tribe who was dedicated to serve the Lord. So gift of God for the service of Lord. So that's the beautiful name. And I love that. Okay, now let's get back to the Gospels and see, how these two writers present their perspective. So when you look at Luke as a physician, so here is a person who is related with the medical field. When he look at the birth of the Savior, he presents us two medical situation. Number one, there is Zechariah and Elizabeth. Okay, so he says that they both were righteous, but they were well stricken in years. Okay, so to describe their age, he used the sentence well stricken in years. I mean, they were very old. And on the top of that, the issue is Elizabeth was barren. So she couldn't give birth to a child. So to make sure that it stays a medical issue, he describes that they were righteous because Old Testament view was if you did not have children, that means, God is punishing you. You have done something wrong. So Luke is presenting that this is a pure medical issue, that this birth is impossible. Then he described the second issue, which is obvious, impossible, that Mary, she's going to give birth to a child, but without a man. But the interesting thing is, he, after describing all that, it's a physician, it's not a storyteller. It's a physician who is testifying that the birth happened. John the Baptist came, Jesus came, and this is a physician of his time. He's saying, through the angel, that nothing is impossible for God. So when a doctor says something like that, it has value. Okay, when you look at Matthew, he presents Jesus as a king. So in his gospel, this person of Jesus is painted with royal colors. His Sermon on the Mount is his manifesto. His parables are the mysteries of the kingdom. His miracles are his royal credentials. And he starts his gospel with Jesus Christ, son of David, so his first sentence just goes directly to a king, and he wants to say that, he's from that lineage. But the interesting thing is when he gives that lineage of the Savior, he, I want to take that angle that he put four women before Mary, and number one is Tamar. In Arabic or Hebrew, means is date. That date we eat, sweet date, and then the other one is Rachel, and according to what we studied there, she was not a good girl. You know, I read a book, Bad Girls of the Bible, and her name is over there. And
Yeah, there are.
so, so their character, and then uh, you have Ruth, and her ancestry was also cursed because of incest. And then the fourth one, uh, Matthew takes a pretty hard shot on David on that. He doesn't say that, the Solomon came from Bathsheba. No, he says that the Solomon was born of the woman who was the wife of Uriah. So he takes a pretty hard shot on David over here. So what is happening is that so he is just giving the name of four of these women, and two of them are Gentile, and but he is connecting Savior with the sinner here. He was named among the sinners, in the later verses in the gospel. We study that. So this is his perspective. So he presents Jesus as a king, and at the same time, he is presenting this king as a gracious king, a king who loves the sinners. In the Old Testament, there were women like Sariah, Leah, but he did not mention them. So he particularly mentioned these four women right before Mary. So the interesting part is, so if you forget about, okay, uh, they were sinners, or they were Gentile, the interesting part is, he is connecting them. I don't want to make any offensive comments, but he is connecting very carefully these women with Mary. And the what I understand is, that is my point of view, that all these birth of Tamar's son was miraculous. It did not happen, like on a regular basis, from her husband. It happened through her father-in-law.
Yeah.
That was, like it, situation was not easy. So somehow he's connecting over there. So I like the view they have, presented. And we had been talking about a little bit, I don't know, one of you talk about the Magi's, we call them wise men. And I really appreciate Dr. Rio. She mentioned about, no, this is a guest place. We need to check what is happening in the Greek language, what is Greek presenting. And somehow, we miss things, in translation. We miss a lot, when we read Urdu Bible. There are a lot of things that has not been translated correctly. So we need to be very careful when we read that. Like the tradition has started that, three Magi's, three wise men came, but nothing is written like this number three in the scriptures. Only the Gospel of Matthew says that, some, wise men came. It's not number three. So when people start making traditions, so sometimes, I like, some traditions are good, but sometimes what happens is,
Yes, right.
when the wrong traditions just get into the minds, then people started following them, and then the wrong doctrine is planted, and result is, as Brother Everest was saying, and then the result is not good. People just keep going away and away and away. Then, I am happy, kids enjoy Santa Claus, but that is not the right doctrine. You can be happy, and I am all right. People celebrate, they have Christmas tree, but at the same time, we need to make sure our generations, all over the world, they are aware of the true story, of the gospel, or true account of the gospel. One point I want to mention over here, and then I will shut my mouth. Uh, Actually, two. So usually, I heard so many pastors when they talk about, the sacrifice of Isaac in term, with his father Abraham, and they say, God provided lamb. And I read those scriptures so many times. I did not read anywhere where it says lamb. It was a ram. And I deal with, I do a lot of research on, cats, tigers, snakes, and I know, lamb and ram are totally different. They can be one species, but ram is very strong. It has long horns, and it is not innocent at all. So Heavenly Father provided the lamb in the form of the Savior, and it came way after that in form of him. Anyhow, that is one thing. The other thing, usually people just say that, the star was just guiding the Magi's all the time. But scriptures don't say that. If star was guiding them on the regular basis, they would never go to Jerusalem and meet Herod. They would directly go to Bethlehem. And what happens here is that scriptures clearly say the Magi's, they saw the star. It doesn't say the star was leading them. Actually, when they reach to the court of Herod, they say, we have seen his star. And what was their purpose? They said, we have come to worship him. And now he calls the elders and people who are experts in scriptures, and they confirm that yes, it should be Bethlehem. And then they see the star again. It's Matthew chapter 2. I don't know exactly what the word says, but it's the second time they see the star. And then from Jerusalem to Bethlehem, almost 9.5 kilometers, according to the scriptures. And it has, different angles. Different writers have presented different angles about the stars, their own opinion, So, but that is, that is the second time, 9.5 kilometers, star is guiding them. So this is, the other thing, usually we miss. And again, all of you, Dr. Paul, Brother Everest, Dr. Rio, I really, really appreciate, you guys open up the scriptures and making effort to describe the reality and the true doctrine. So, Brother Bashir, Dr. Bashir, my intake or, my input is that teaching the pure doctrine is the very need of the time. So, as you all said, we are going away and away and away from the doctrine. I remember that a child was in the uh, religious class, and he came home and he started telling his mom that he was studying a religious class in the school, and he was writing the story of Moses and Pharaoh. And he said when the Pharaoh's forces were following Moses, all of a sudden, Moses ordered his engineers to build a big bridge on the Red Sea, and he put the dynamite under the bridge and took the remote control. And as soon as the Pharaoh's army reached the bridge, he just, clicked the button, and there was a blast, and Pharaoh's army just went into the Red Sea. And the mother said, "Oh my goodness, this is what you study in the religious education class?" He said, "Hold on, mom. I corrected the story. If I tell you the true story, what my teacher has told you, you will never believe that." So, if we are not keeping the doctrine, we are not keeping the doctrine